Yeah. All right. Top line and title of this video: Flying Monkeys. I'm going to talk about what a flying monkey is, what the purpose and objectives that flying monkeys are trying to fulfill, and how important you are comparatively to a flying monkey. Okay? So let's start off with what a flying monkey is. I'm sure you all have seen The Wizard of Oz. That's one of the most popular movies of all time. If you recall, there were literally flying monkeys in The Wizard of Oz. They were engaging Dorothy and anybody associated with her as much as they could. They were trying to instill fear. They were trying to manipulate her. They were trying to discourage her from doing what she set out to do. Now, who are those flying monkeys acting on the behalf of? The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz was sending out those flying monkeys to do his bidding. Now we know what the Wizard of Oz ended up being in the long run. Basically a coward, someone not nearly worthy of the respect he sought out to command from Dorothy in particular. A flying monkey, in the context of reality, is pretty much the same thing. It's someone who sets out to do the bidding of another person. Think of it as some cynical ambassador or some cynical lobbyist on behalf of another person. Think of it as someone who can gain access where the person who's dispersing the flying monkeys can't. For example, if you decide to not contact or communicate or associate or affiliate with a person or a group, that person no longer has access to you. So what they'll do is they'll send out flying monkeys. They'll send out people who do have access with you. They'll send out people who can communicate with you. And basically, they're not on your side. They're on the side of the wizard, so to speak, the one deploying the flying monkeys. They they might not conscientiously be against you, but in application and in principle, they are against you. They are people who don't respect your boundaries. They are people who do not respect your substance and reasons, feelings, and emotions that lead you to make the decision that you've made. Now, what's the purpose of flying monkeys? Flying monkeys basically want you to conform to the wishes and command of their wizard. I'm just going to call the wizard the person who's sending out the flying monkeys. For example, you got a married couple and there's domestic abuse or some type of heavy scrutiny going on in the marriage where one decides to get away from the other for a while, create some separation. The purpose in the flying monkey is to cover that distance created by the person who's trying to protect themselves or the person who's no longer wanting to engage the wizard and reel you back in. It's almost like, think about fishing. Fish aren't just going to come and hop in the cooler. You know, when people catch fish and they throw them in the cooler, throw them in their little basket or whatever. So what do? They use a fishing rod with some bait on it. So the purpose is to lure you in. The purpose also of a flying monkey is to saturate you with the emotions, feelings, and opinions of the wizard. They uh they want you to know how the wizard feels, and they want how the wizard feels to supersede and overshadow how you feel about the issue. The other purpose, honestly, of a flying monkey, it's almost like a tour of duty that they're on. I'm of the strong opinion that flying monkeys don't exactly want to be deployed on behalf of somebody. They don't want to be out lobbying for you to give yourself as a resource to the wizard. They probably rather be doing something else with their life. They probably have their own lives that they're trying to live. But somehow or another, there's a sticky manipulation or some type of sticky, weird, convoluted relationship between the flying monkey and the wizard. Whatever is going on in the wizard's mind is probably not making things comfortable for the flying monkey. The flying monkey is probably having to deal with it a little. Okay. Uh, that can come out in various forms. I gave the example of marriage, but it can come out in, you can just have a job and maybe you go to work, you do your thing, you fulfill your objectives, you clock out, and you go home. Now, everyone else, your coworkers, they might fraternize, if you will. They might mingle and hang out and do extracurricular leisure activities together. Well, you might have your reason for not doing that. You might just not think that's appropriate in the context of a job, or you may have your reasons. You might not care to associate with these people any more than you have to. Well, flying monkeys can act on behalf of a group too. I've had jobs where I went, I did what I was supposed to, I put in my time, I went home or got off work and kept it moving on with the rest of my life, on to my other objectives. But it was a heavily uh, social job. For example, working at a bar or something like that. Everybody drinks together after work. They sit and have beers and drink and conversate and talk about stuff after work. They hang out with each other outside of work. Well, I didn't choose to do all of that. I had my reasons for not doing that, particularly because I didn't really like the energy around those people. I'll speak on what my reason was. I found them to be very shallow. I found them to be judgmental, basically. I knew that I had opinions and perspectives that would not align with them. So I chose not to hang out with them any more than I had to. If there was a little party that work was throwing, I did not choose to attend it. I had other things to do. But there would be people from the job whenever they could, they would basically guilt trip me for the most part and project uh, how it would be beneficial if I did hang out with them, if I did frequent with them, if I did associate with them, if I did give some of my leisure time to, you know, hanging out and entertaining them. So that's an example just that I can give for myself. So the purpose of the flying monkey there was to make it seem like it's in my best interest to do something I don't want to do, something that the group wants me to do. Now, you'll never really know why the wizard, if it's an individual or a group, wants you to give them your energy. Or maybe sometimes you will know. And I would like to think that in general, in both of those scenarios, it's because people feel like they have to get the attention that they want or get the energy that they want from you in order to feel effective or feel comfortable with you. And if they're not getting that, they feel threatened. They also have this mentality that their validation of you is necessary. So if you're not seeking their validation, if you're not going out of your way to expose yourself to their energy or give your energy, then they'll make it seem like you're working against yourself or something like that. Like it's not in your best interest to do that. In essence, flying monkeys are deployed to alleviate a perceived threat. The threat could be you being independent, for example, in the context of the work related scenario. I was independent of the job. I didn't need to, my social life was not contingent upon the coworkers I had in any shape or form. In the context of a wizard or a person that you don't want to give your energy to or that you don't want to associate with or a person that you've decided to go no contact with or make minimal contact with, they feel threatened by you. You're independent of them. So at some point in time, that person or that wizard per se thought that you were codependent upon them. And the reality is they're codependent upon you for whatever reason. Sometimes people will be codependent on you and you can't even really do anything for them. It's just their validation that they want you to seek. It's your energy that they want to leech off of. It's your cooperation or your affection that they feel they need. But the reality of it is they actually don't need it. They just want it or feel entitled to it. And flying monkeys go out and fulfill those entitlements on behalf of whomever is deploying them. Last purpose that I'll speak on that a flying monkey has is to gaslight you. They will, should you decide to entertain the flying monkey, you know, the best flying monkeys are someone that you do have a relationship or someone that you do have some type of association with. That's the intricacy and cleverness of the wizard. It's somebody that they know that you will listen to, or maybe it's somebody that they know that you'll be interacting with on a casual manner, and they can boom, blindside you with like, hey, you should talk to so and so, or so and so misses you, or you, you was wrong for what you did to so and so, or that's not right how you're treating this person. Now, they clearly only have one side of the story upon their initial deployment. The flying monkey only has been told what their deployer has told them. But that doesn't really matter because even once they come in contact with you and should you decide to fill them in on the missing details, you start to bridge that gap between what they were told and your testimony and your experience and what you've witnessed or what happened. They don't care. Their purpose then becomes to make it seem like that don't even matter. Make it seem like you're overreacting or being petty or over exaggerating or not being considerate or being selfish. Basically like you're the problem. That's the goal of a flying monkey. That would probably be the biggest, is to make it seem like you're the problem. Or to make it seem like the problem that they acknowledge, even if they have some sense or a soul, they'll make it seem like, oh, well, those don't seem like strong enough reasons for you to not give the wizard what they want. Give the wizard what they want. I've heard what you've had to say, and on a scale, your feelings and emotions weigh significantly less than the wizard. So why don't you go ahead back to the wizard? Or I guess since I brought up the Wizard of Oz in the context of that, it's like leave the wizard alone. Stop pursuing the wizard. You know, like flying monkeys can also be trying to discourage you from doing something. You're trying to make contact with somebody. You're looking for somebody. It might be something that you think needs to be confronted. It might be someone that you think needs to be confronted. It might be it could be an environmental issue. It could be a social issue. It can be something like that. And you are looking for that person. You are in campaign and you are in opposition to this person or an organization or an entity or whatever the case may be. And there'll be flying monkeys that basically want to discourage you from doing that. Like, hey, that's not going to work. All right, well, what are you putting all your time into that for? Or, you don't understand them. I think you you've got some things misconstrued. They'll try to gaslight you. Now, last but not least, what is your value to a flying monkey? Hmm. Comparatively, not very much at all. Your value to a flying monkey is like ants to an anteater. They care more about the anteater or the aardvark than they do the ant. Ants ain't trying to get sucked up and eaten. An ant probably is like, what? Why would I want that? But see, the flying monkey is like, hey, ant, how's this aardvark? This sounds funny, but it's really not. So basically, a flying monkey would be like, yeah, but ant, do you understand that this anteater, this aardvark's gonna die unless you feed it? So in essence, your presence and your existence is to fulfill the aardvark's desire. Oh, you are you are something one step above cattle to a flying monkey. They don't care about you as an individual, and they may, but it's contingent upon the wizard. It's like you gotta, that saying. There's levels to this thing. Well, whatever level you are on, as high as it may be, it's on a level lesser than the person that they're deployed on behalf of. I hope that makes sense. So long story short, if your value is contingent upon another person's value, you might as well say that's no value at all. If you have people that will switch up on you once they're pressed or solicited emotions and opinions and desires and demands of another person, and they choose to, all right, and go act on behalf of it, that's not good. You should keep an eye on that person because there's some type of codependency between those flying monkeys and the wizard. And whatever that codependency is, it outweighs whatever your relationship is with the flying monkey or monkeys. They'll sacrifice you. Sacrifice doesn't have a somebody sacrificing you doesn't really sound good, does it? Because it's not. So there's your value. give the wizard what they want, and hey, all right, you got some value now. Don't give the wizard what they want, and the flying monkeys will take it as you're attacking them. So then they'll start to shame or shun or be a naysayer or speak ill of you. Even if they wouldn't have even said those things or had that type of energy towards you outside of trying to do another person's bidding. So, flying monkeys, not good. And let me wrap this up by saying this: don't be a flying monkey for someone. Being a flying monkey for someone is the most shallow thing I think you can do as far as interpersonal value goes and just social value. Because, and I say this interpersonally, I use interpersonal in here because I guess I could just talk about myself as an example. If I know that two people don't want to talk to each other, or one person doesn't want to talk to someone, yet the other person does want to talk to the person that's created distance. Before I even go off, and I'm highly likely to not even try to do that. But before I even go off and try to communicate on behalf of somebody or speak on an issue that I know is offsetting or not compatible with the way this individual feels about the other person, I better have some outstanding details. It better be something so profound, like Nelson Mandela's in prison, and Nelson Mandela is my friend, or maybe I follow Nelson Mandela, or maybe I'm his apprentice or something, and I go to the warden and I go to whatever city or state is imprisoning him and I advocate for his freedom. It's got to be something like that. Like, hey man, that is flat out wrong what y'all are doing to him. Like I see Martin Luther King or something. If I was there when Martin Luther King was on his campaign and going through what he was going through, I would yeah, I'd be talking to all of these people wanting segregation and racism and all of these type of people. I'll be like, hey, leave him alone. He wants this. And I agree with him to a certain extent. If if I guess I'm using Martin Luther King. If Martin Luther King wants an audience with somebody in the government or you know some prominent influential individual, and I have access to that individual, but Martin Luther King doesn't. Martin Luther King talks to me and he's like, hey man, I keep trying to, if they would just hear me out, or if they would just let me speak, or if they would just give me a chance to make my case, I think some progress will be made. And after I hear him out, I'll be like, you know what, man? All right, I agree with that. And then I would go and maybe be like, hey, is there any way that we could book a public speaking event for Martin Luther King, or just something like that? I'm just giving an example before I would ever serve the role. But see, even then, that wouldn't be a flying monkey necessarily. But I'm just giving you an example of when you would advocate on behalf of somebody, act as an ambassador on behalf of somebody. Because in essence, for example, if you're a well, literally, if you're an ambassador or something of that nature, you go over to other countries maybe that are at war or that are having tension, and those countries might be at a standoff, both not really wanting to have contact with the other, and you go on behalf and speak on behalf and try to bring the opposing country to the table. See, I think those type of things are okay. But I wouldn't call that a flying monkey either. I guess in the context of that, when you get to flying monkey, now mind you, the things that I just recently said are maybe the positive aspects of advocating on behalf of somebody. But flying monkey is when it's very clear and it's more arbitrary that one side has a total different perspective and opinion and desire than the other. And when it gets arbitrary to the point where I don't even really know what's happened, that's when you don't want to do it. And I would never do that. If I don't know what happened, I would try to figure out what happens before I even try to push a narrative. That's just me. So don't be a flying monkey. And it might be a shock to think of it this way, but have you ever been a flying monkey before? You ever served the role of a flying monkey? Now, mind you, like I said, there's a difference between advocating on behalf of something and being a flying monkey. Deuces.